All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Daytona International Speedway. We are going to get started with our media availabilities in advance of Saturday's Coke Zero Sugar 400, and we are joined by the defending winner of this race, Erik Jones, driver of the number 20 Sport Clips Toyota. We will open up to questions. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic. We'll start up here with Lee and then go to Greg and Nate.
Thank you. Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Erik, take us through the last lap of your win, and at what point did you know, hey, I've got this thing locked up?
Well, I remember that whole last sequence of restarts, and the last one, green-white checkered there. We were kind of stuck side by side with Martin for that first lap, and then coming around to take the white, I could kind of see the top line forming behind me and was hoping they were going to stick with me and get a good push. And going down the backstretch, Martin was really trying to side draft hard, and we got a really good push from the 37 and got clean of Martin there. And I knew at that point going into 3 that the only way we were probably going to lose it was a catastrophic failure. So defending the last block or the last move that Martin could make and get into the checkered. So it was really not until coming out of 4, I would say I knew it was pretty locked in, but definitely remember everything about those last few laps for sure.
What about the party after?
It was good. Yeah, well, it was funny. We didn't get home until, it had to be 3 in the morning, and I had to fly out and go to Slinger the next day for a late model race, so we didn't, I don't know if we went to sleep, but we flew up there and went up and practiced that day in the late model, and then finally got to celebrate that night, so it was cool. I had a lot of buddies that came over actually to Wisconsin from Michigan to come celebrate, so that was a lot of fun.
We'll go to Greg, Nate, and then Jordan.
Hey, Erik, Greg Engel, AutoWeek and Cupscene.com. 2 quick questions. Coming back here as the defending winner, how does that feel? Does it give you extra motivation to win Saturday night? And this is the last July 4th race for the foreseeable future here. Is that a big deal, having that tradition going away or not?
Well, coming back as a defending winner always feels good, any race you can come back to in any track. And for me, it definitely gives you that extra little bump to know you want to keep being the defending winner and come back again and do it again. But as far as the race moving from 4th of July, it's kind of disappointing for me, I guess. Growing up, you always had the big 4th of July race at Daytona, and that's where everybody was. And on Saturday night, that's what you did, watch the race at Daytona, no matter when the 4th was. And so it's a little bit of a bummer. It's a tradition. Everybody loves tradition and kind of some of the things in the sport that have stuck around for a long time, and this is one of those things. And I'm sad to see it go. It's a change of the times, I guess, but you never know. Maybe we'll make it back over here for the 4th one day.
Go to Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Erik, a lot of talk about manufacturer alliances, obviously the last time here at Talladega a couple months ago. Do you think there will be a familiar storyline Saturday night where manufacturers will be a big determinant in the outcome?
Yeah, I think so. We were talking about it just the other day as a group. We've got some strong race cars, but unfortunately, there's only 5 Toyotas out there, and that doesn't give us a lot to work with the other manufacturers having a lot more. So, we'll do all we can, and I know we'll have fast cars, but it's definitely going to be manufacturer dominated with the other 2 really linking up and sticking together. I think they saw what Toyota's done the last, even well before I was racing Cup, with working together and making sure that they were in the place they needed to be, and the other guys have really caught on now the last few years.
Go to Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Your teammate Denny Hamlin last week had what he thought was a questionable penalty on pit road for an uncontrolled tire. We've seen that a few times this year. Some drivers have said they would like to see a little bit more of common sense enacted when it comes to applying penalties. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've got some odd penalties in my NASCAR time too. There's weird things sometimes to get called that you wouldn't think would. It's tough for me to say. I saw the video and I saw the call. I've seen some other uncontrolled tires that maybe didn't get called. So it's a strike and ball call, right? You're judging it a little bit from their eyes to make that call and determine what was an uncontrolled tire. So I get it's the rule, and that's what's in the rule book, and technically that was a penalty, what they got called for. Was it a safety issue? Not really. So I don't know. I mean, there is probably more common sense judgment that could be used there rather than just black and white. This is the rule. We can call it either way, but if they're going to get into the judgment calls, that makes it a whole nother mess, right? Then you're calling people that sometimes get it, sometimes don't. I'd rather have them kind of stick to the black and white, make the call.
Come over here to the far right to Claire and then go to Dustin.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I spoke with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. yesterday. He thought that the racing would be different here in that it's not that you wouldn't need friends, but you won't stick with someone the whole race, and you'll have different friends at different times, maybe pushing you, but that the nature of the race will be totally different as far as friends and people pushing you, et cetera, and sticking with people. Can you define that? Is that true?
Yeah, I think, I've only been super speedway racing since 2014 in the trucks and only in Cup for, since 17. So even since then, super speedway racing's changed a lot. Everybody's gotten so aggressive and they're quick to move lanes and leave you hanging, leave you out to dry. And I think everybody's kind of realized that that's what you got to do to win. We saw for so long there, even still the Penske cars, the 22 being so dominant on super speedways, and he doesn't make any friends. He's making the moves that's going to advance him, and he's watching out for number one, right? And I think everybody's kind of taking that mentality on now of you got to watch out for yourself. You got to make the moves that are going to make the best day for yourself, especially late in the race. Early in the race, you see the manufacturer alliance and those guys working together, but those last 50 laps, it kind of breaks up and everybody's just doing what they got to do to watch out for themselves.
Go to Dustin, Holly, and then Kelly.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Erik, how did the manufacturer alliances inhibit what you were able to do at Talladega then? Because as you mentioned, everything kind of opens up the last 50 laps. Or how does that change here because this is a more narrow track? And how did that inhibit you at Talladega, and how does that play into here then more so?
Well, I felt like at Talladega we were just kind of trying to tag on with some of the other guys, right? Tag on to their lines because they were so much bigger than ours, and just trying to make the most of what we had. But as far as coming back here, the racing will be different here than it was at Talladega. I think everybody's had time now to work on this package and get it better and optimize it a little bit. Daytona's a lot different track, as you mentioned, than Talladega. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think it's definitely a little bit tougher for some of the manufacturers to really take advantage of the alliance with it being so narrow. There's not sometimes really anywhere to go at Daytona. I think that kind of plays in our hand a little bit as well. If we can get out in the front and kind of command the race and get that line rolling around the top, I think, the Toyotas will stay strong up there. So I'd say this race probably plays better into our hand with having less cars. It's easy to say now. I'll tell you more in about 10 o'clock Saturday night. But, going into it, I think we all feel a little bit better about it.
Go to Holly, Kelly, and then Jerry.
Holly Kane, the NASCAR Wire Service. Could you do you enjoy the super speedway racing? I mean, you did well in the Daytona 500. You're coming off a win here before. Is this something you really like? And does the change in the rules kind of make everyone back at scratch? Or do you feel like you still, have somewhat of an edge because you race well?
Well, it's become something I've liked or do like. Early in my career, it drove me crazy because I just wasn't very good at it. I didn't really understand it. I felt like I was always the victim, always getting caught in wrecks. But it's funny, a lot of the times, as much as it's out of your control, it's also in your control. And just knowing better situationally, becoming more aware on the super speedways of what situations are bad and what situations you don't want to be in, I think has helped me a lot. Learning more about the draft, where to position yourself, where you need to be at certain points in the race. Those things have all made me enjoy it more, just learning more about it and figuring out how to be better at it. I don't think any driver likes to do things they aren't good at. And, eventually I've really come to enjoy it. And there's still things out of your control, but you have to go into the weekend knowing that and just take it as, hey, we're going to do all we can, right? This is a great opportunity for anybody in the field to win. And you got to go into it with that mentality that at the end of the day, if you get taken out in a wreck that wasn't your fault, it's going to happen. But I feel like I've learned a lot and gotten quite a bit better at it. So it's something I definitely like a lot more.
Go to Kelly.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Erik, coming in here now, the first guy outside the playoff grid, have you and Chris Gale talked about how you'll approach the next 9 races? Do you stay business as usual, or do you change your approach between trying to get into the playoff grid? And then I have a second one.
Well, I think for us, our goal is 30 points a race, right? And that's about a 7th place finish. And if we can do that each and every week, 9 straight races, that's a lot to ask. But, I feel like we can. And if we can do that, we'll easily point our way in without a win. So we know we can win a race. We got good tracks coming up here. Obviously, this weekend's good. Kentucky's good to us, and a few more along the way, going back to Bristol. So there's some tracks marked down we feel like we can win at. But as long as we can continue just to crank out, that 30 points a race, guys will make mistakes. We'll just keep pointing our way up there and get to it. But really our year, we've missed out on so many stage points. It's killed us. Looking back, there's been so many races we haven't gotten enough stage points, and it's really put us farther back in the points than we want to be. And obviously some unfortunate circumstances with some DNFs. So just some things that we could have done probably a little bit better to earn more points in races. But I would say at this point our goal is 30 a race, and if we can do that, we'll be okay.
So to that end, has this season more just been kind of circumstances have not really shown that you guys are better than what your finishes have been?
Yeah, some of it's been our own fault, right? Phoenix, you look back at there a few months ago, it was a loose wheel to start the race, blow a tire, get in the wall, ruins our day. Charlotte, we blow right front. Whether that's our fault or not, I don't know. But there's Bristol, loose wheel, go 3 laps down. So there's been so many races where it's like, you just kind of take yourself out of it, and that's what you can't do in this sport and trying to make the playoffs. So we've had fast cars. In Sonoma, we had another good car, just had to start at the back. Chicago, we had an okay car, but made a good day out of it. So we've got good cars. We just need to have things go our way. We need to execute better on our end, on all fronts, and make sure we're doing all we can to get the best finish we can.
We're going to go to Jerry, Edgar, and then Melissa.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net. I don't know if you looked at this or not, but except for the crash at Kentucky, your worst finish there across trucks, Xfinity, and Cup is 8th. What is it about that track that makes you so good there, and why do you like it?
Yeah, I remember the crash I had there. Well, that was a dumb one. That was all. I still regret that one. But Kentucky, I don't know. It's always been a place I've liked. Even before the repave, I felt really comfortable on the old surface and just enjoyed it. And then after the repave, I was thinking, man, I don't know if it's still going to be good for me. And it's just, I don't know. It's somewhere unique. 1 and 2 doesn't seem to make a big difference. I've always really focused on 3 and 4 and making sure my car handled well and got through there well. And that's where I've always focused and made a lot of passes, made a lot of time, and and ran well at. So I just enjoy it. I like the track. I like the layout. And just the way it drives has been something that has kind of fit my style, I guess, from the start. That real flat turn 3 and 4 has always been kind of the sweet spot for me. Just getting through there, I've always felt really comfortable.
We'll go in the back to Edgar, and then we'll wrap up in front with Melissa.
Yeah, Edgar Thompson, the Orlando Sentinel. Given the success of Joe Gibbs' race and winning, is that frustrating for you, motivating, a little of both?
A little of both. I think that's a good way to put it. It's frustrating in the sense I feel like we can win and just haven't executed to do it. Motivating in the sense that the cars are fast enough to do it and that we can go out and make it happen here in these next 9 races. So, it's been, I would say, probably the best cars I've had since my rookie year. We had really fast cars in 17. Last year our cars were good, but I felt like in areas we were lacking. And then this year, again, I feel like our cars are really, really good. So it is frustrating not to be able to take advantage of that, right, and get those wins. But I feel like we are on a good path right now with the way we've ran the last few weeks and what we've done in the races to close it out here as long as we can get the race to play out the way we need it to. I think this weekend will be good, but I really am looking forward to Kentucky and the way I think that race is going to go.
How's that team dynamic work? Did guys try to pick you up, or is it every man for himself, or how's that go?
Kind of every man for himself. We all work together very closely, the drivers, the crew chiefs, the engineers, but as far as performance goes, I would say it's within each team, right? Chris and I talk and work through things together, but the other teams don't don't focus on that. They focus on themselves and running the best they can and getting the best finish they can, away from sharing the information.
Going to wrap up with Melissa.
Melissa Thomas of Florida National News. Piggybacking off of that, what things are you telling yourself? What are the different items of motivation that you surround yourself with to keep going? What keeps you awake? What makes you get out of bed in the morning to keep going?
Well, I'm lucky. I'm a very optimistic person, number one. And for me, just, the opportunity that I have coming to the racetrack each week keeps me going, getting up each day and pushing, working, talking with the team, doing what I need to do on my end to make sure that, we're putting forth the full effort. And then, just looking back at the journey it took to get here, right? All this work to get to this level keeps you going every day, right? This is what, for me, this is what I've worked for my whole life, was to be at the cup level and be with a top-tier team, and that's what keeps driving me, knowing that I'm here, this is the opportunity, and, do what you got to do to make it work on your end.
Well, Eric, thanks for joining us, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
All good.
All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Daytona International Speedway in advance of Saturday night's Coke Zero Sugar 400. We are joined by Alex Bowman, driver of the number 88 Valvoline Patriotic Chevrolet, who is our most recent race winner, who earned his first Monster Energy Series win last weekend at Chicagoland. We will open it up to questions for Alex. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic. We'll start with Greg and then go to Jerry.
Oh, hey. Hey. Greg Engel, Auto Week Cup Scene. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
You haven't heard that at all this week. Two questions. You got a new car in your driveway. Talk about that, and about the fact that this is the last July 4th race here at Daytona for a while.
Yeah, so on the new car, I got to drive a ZL1 1LE Camaro at Milford last year at the Proving Grounds. I've always been a Corvette guy, so I almost didn't want to like it, and I fell in love with it there and started thinking about how to try to get one, and then I drove one at Spring Mountain a couple weeks ago too. And I was like, man, if I win a race, I'm going to go get one. And then yesterday I had a little mini road trip to Wilmington to go get one and bring it back, but that was a lot of fun. Thanks, Mr. H, for letting me take the helicopter to Wilmington to buy a car. That was pretty neat. It was definitely faster there than the 3.5-hour drive back, but it was a lot of fun. Got to buy it from Jeff Gordon Chevrolet, so that was neat as well. And then, other question. Oh, July 4th, yeah. So, I don't know. That's pretty interesting. I guess I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I feel like this place is always a heck of a show on the 4th of July. Obviously, today is 4th of July, so happy 4th to everybody. And I don't know. I guess I'll have to put some thought into that one.
We'll go to Jerry, Holly, and then Lee.
Jerry Jordan, kicking the tires.net. I was actually going to ask about the vet as well, but why Wilmington? I mean, there's surely Mr. H has lots of cars. Car buying for you probably has to be a lot different than car buying for us. You took a helicopter.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was like, if we get you the helicopter, will you buy it today? It was like a whole new level of car salesman on that one. I was like, okay, so yeah, it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. It's pretty neat when you get to do stuff like that. So I'm enjoying it so far. It was a good 3.5-hour ride home to break it in.
Wait, I make it 3.5 hours in my Honda, so it could.
Yeah, it's 4th of July. There's a lot of police officers out watching the roads. I was not trying to get a speeding ticket. I don't want to jack my insurance rates too bad.
Go to Holly, Lee, and then Nate.
Hey, Alex, Holly King, the NASCAR Wire Service. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how your week has been. I saw that Jack Nicklaus had sent you something on Twitter earlier. I guess that was Sunday night. But if you could just talk about also, does it feel as good as you always anticipated it was? You've had a long time to think about it and a week to celebrate it.
Yeah, it's probably been a little different than I thought it would be. It was just a really short week and a lot of obligations come along with it, but it's been a lot of fun. It was really fun to get home Sunday night and get to kind of share that with my friends and the whole race team stopped by on their way home from the airport. So that was really cool. It's just been a lot of fun. I feel like it's a big relief, and now I want to go win a bunch more. But that was always, you always get that kind of question in the back of your head, like, what if I never win a Cup race? Just like, start thinking about how many drivers have driven for Hendrick Motorsports that haven't won a Cup race in their career, and I don't want to be one of those guys, or I don't even know if anybody's ever done that. So it feels really good to kind of have that off my back, and now we can just focus on going and winning a bunch more of them.
Did you hear from anyone that was completely out of the blue, someone that impressed you that would reach out? Or
I mean, obviously, the messages on Twitter from a lot of really cool people, that was really neat. Nobody really surprising for me. I went through 400 text messages and tried to respond to everybody, so that took a lot of time, but it was just really neat to see everybody's support, and I'm super appreciative of that.
We'll go to Lee, Nate, and then Kelly.
Did Emma go to Wilmington?
No, she's sick, so she stayed home. She started teaching, so she brought home germs from some little kid, and I've been avoiding her like the plague. So literally, like, sleeping on the couch, avoiding her like the plague.
Hope she gets well soon. Given your success at Chicagoland, do you anticipate that things will click at other intermediate tracks? I mean, when we go to Kentucky next week, do you expect to be in the mix as well?
Yeah, I think our intermediate program has obviously been really strong for the last couple months, and Kansas, we were really good, so Chicago's one we kind of circled. Kentucky is so different, just with how flat 3 and 4 is, and it's a fresh repave and all that. So, I think we'll be really strong there. I don't know if we've circled it quite as much as we did a place like Chicago and Kansas, but looking forward to it. I think we can go win each and every week. I think we can win this week. Any week we go to the racetrack right now, I feel like our cars are very capable of winning.
Does that also come from the win, too, that you feel that extra bump?
Yeah, but I felt that way before that, too. We went to a lot of different styles of racetracks and ran really well. Michigan and Pocono should have been top 5s, and we had a bad last restart at Michigan and a part failure at Pocono. So, we've been fast everywhere, I feel like, and just need to keep capitalizing on it, and I need to go win a bunch more races if Mr. H is going to keep making me buy cars all the time.
We're going to go to Nate, Kelly, Dustin, and then Chris.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. So first, Alex, just to clarify, the helicopter ride was free, but the car was not, correct?
Yeah. I feel like the helicopter ride might have got incorporated into some type of dock fee, or, when you buy a car, it's like you get price 1, and then there's like dock fee, tax, title, license, registration. So I feel like there might have been a hidden fee that I missed there. That was a helicopter ride. So I very well could be paying for it.
And then secondly, in the media center last week, you said that your career hadn't been what you had hoped it would have been as a kid. What did 10-year-old Alex Bowman think would be the career right now for 26-year-old Alex Bowman? What do you think you would have done, or where you would have been by now?
Man, 10-year-old me would have thought that it was going to be super easy the whole way, and that I was just going to win all the time, and that there weren't going to be any struggles and weren't going to be any low points. And I don't know. I think looking back at it all, I'll take my way over that, just because I feel like I appreciate it a lot more, because I had to work a lot harder to get to this point, and kind of those low points and struggles make it all worth it so much more. But yeah, 10-year-old me would have been like, it's all going to be super easy, and I'm going to break every record there is, and I'm better than everybody, all that. But then reality kind of set in a little bit shortly after that.
Was Cup where you wanted to be?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a kid, I thought F1 was super cool all the time, and then I went road racing once and realized that it probably not my end goal there. But I would say Cup, yeah, it was the end goal, but just making a living driving a race car was kind of always my goal as a kid. And I really like sprint car and midget racing as well. So kind of would have taken anything. But whatever I was driving, I just thought winning was going to be super easy.
Go to Kelly.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Alex, two things. The first is you had also said last week that by winning a cup race now you kind of feel like you belong. You've heard those questions about whether you deserve it or you haven't won a cup race. You'd heard all that. Does stuff like that, had that been sticking with you maybe more than you'd let on over the years? Like, had it really bothered you? I mean, obviously you were quick to bring it up last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it didn't bother me that much. It just was a lot of motivation. That like just having people say all the time that you can't do it and that you haven't done it is a good way to motivate me. So if they want to keep saying it, I'm all good. But it's just, I think it's really easy to say you're not supposed to read those articles or you're not supposed to think about it or let it bother you. But probably not as good at that as I should be. And I see that stuff all the time and just use it as motivation.
And the second thing is you had said during your string of those second place finishes that the biggest thing for the team was just to stay consistent, not go back to running outside the top 10. Even before you got the win last week, have you felt like the team has been consistent enough? Have you guys turned the corner?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at Talladega on for us. We've been really strong everywhere. Charlotte, I knocked the wall down and still finished 7th. Pocono, we lost 4th gear, finished like 15th, and Sonoma, we lost power steering and still finished top 15. So really those were our worst weeks. Other than that, we've been really solid everywhere, and it's been a lot of fun, just to be able to be a little more consistent than we've been and have really fast race cars each and every week. I mean, to go to Sonoma and have speed throughout practice and drive it off the racetrack twice in qualifying and still make the final round somehow. For me, that's crazy. Like, I've always struggled making speed at road courses. So our cars are just so fast right now, and it's a blast to be driving them.
Go to Dustin and then Chris.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Alex, this week, Landon Castle tweeted about seeing almost, firsthand your struggles to get to this point and saying that, felt like a lot of race car drivers really felt that win type of thing. I want to get your reaction to just kind of seeing that from Landon. And as you may now inspire other drivers, who inspired you in those tough times, or who did you look up to saying that this path is still possible?
Yeah, that was really cool to see from Landon. Obviously, him and I raced each other a lot in the back half of the garage over the years, and he's obviously super good, really talented, does a lot with a little. And you look at guys like Ross Chastain that have kind of had a similar career path, and Matt DiBenedetto obviously is another really good race car driver. So I feel like the back half of the garage doesn't get the credit they deserve sometimes. I mean, those cars are pretty difficult to drive at times, way more difficult than mine are now. So, to come from that to a ride like Hendrick Motorsports has been really cool. There's not recently, I think, like the most recent person that I think of that has had a similar career path would be like Brad Keselowski, but I don't know, through those struggles that I really looked up to another driver. I fell into some situations that kind of helped pull me out of the super low points that I don't really know how they happened. I don't know why Dale said, hey, we should call Alex to drive the car. I don't know why some of those things happened, but up until then, there were obviously some really low points, and I was just trying to keep digging and keep making a living driving a race car because I don't really have a plan B or anything to fall back on, so I didn't really have a choice.
I mean, I know you've got a bigger focus, bigger concern, but the idea that you may now be an inspiration to other drivers,
Yeah, that's really neat. I hadn't really thought about that, and if I inspire somebody, that's really cool. I hadn't thought about that at all, so it's cool to kind of hear that and think about that. And the biggest thing is never give up. There were a lot of opportunities to give up, and it would have been really easy to walk away from the sport in 2016, could have walked away from the sport. And the end of 2013, not having a great opportunity to run up front anymore. And, we decided to just keep digging and make the most of every opportunity that was given. Thanks.
We'll go to Chris and then Reed.
ChrisKnightCatchruns.com. A couple things real quick. Did you get to throw, oh my God, I'm drawing on Greg Ives into the pool?
No. He knew that was coming all night, so he never had a vulnerable moment around the pool ever. It was always like I got thrown in the pool. So at that point I didn't really care. I would have tackled him and gone in with him. But the dude's like a tree. He's 7 feet tall. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's I'm not very big myself. I don't have a lot of momentum once I tackle somebody, so he wouldn't even go near the pool.
All right, and with the playoffs on the horizon, how far do you think the 88 team can go in the playoffs? Do you think you can get to Homestead?
I think it's very possible, yeah. I mean, I think each and every week we show up, we can win. We have great partners making that possible with Exalta and Nationwide, Valvoline this week, Lumar. We want to get them as far into the playoffs as we can and try to go to Homestead. There's a lot of really good racetracks, obviously a lot of mile and a halfs, which are great for us right now, and I really feel like we can get there.
We'll go to Reed and then Claire.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. Back to Sunday's race for a second. Most of the time when one driver passes another late, like Larson did you, people know how that's going to come out. What told you, sitting in the seat of the car, what did you feel, what did you think that told you that you could get back by him and win the race?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't want to run second anymore, so I was going to crash the thing or win. It was as simple as that. I just got a little more aggressive with how I ran the fence for that one lap that I was behind him, and was able to create a big run off 4, and he left both of my options open into turn 1, and I decided to go to the bottom and was just able to get to his quarter panel and drag him back down the straightaway. And the top is so far around in 3 and 4 that when you got somebody underneath you, there's really nothing you can do to defend that. So I was as surprised as everybody else that we made that happen, but I'm glad it all worked out. I still have had to think about why it happened like that or how it happened like that and can't figure it out, but I'll take it.
Go to Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I've been interviewing people in Victory Lane for about 20 years now, and I don't remember a crew chief ever saying to me, it's so-and-so's team. It's not the number 88. This is Alex Bowman's team. And while I'm sure people talk about that behind the scenes, it was a very public statement, almost to me like a passing of the baton to say it publicly, that visibly in Victory Lane. Does that make you stronger, even though you've probably have had those conversations? What does that mean to you that he said that? Because it sort of struck me as something very unique.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes from a little bit of the struggle I had to try to kind of say that it's my race car or our race car, however you want to look at that. I think this might be the first media availability that I haven't had the question yet, what's it like to replace Dale Earnhardt Jr.? So, it's obviously really hard to come into an iconic car like this after somebody like Dale Jr. drives it. I'd imagine Chase went through the same thing, stuff like that with big name guys coming before you. So, that was tough just to kind of try to be a leader. Like, I'm not a natural leader either. I don't think Greg or I are. I think that's something we both struggle with and have both tried to help each other out with over the last year and a half. And, finally, lately, I feel like we're both doing a good job of it. It's kind of been a growing process of trying to figure out how to be leaders. We're both kind of a little bit awkward and shy in different situations, and we have some really big personalities on our team, and it's easy for us to be quiet and kind of let other people be more of leaders than we are. So we've both been working really hard at it, and it seems to be paying off lately.
We're going to wrap up with Kelly.
Alex, are we going to see what we saw at Talladega this Saturday night when it comes to the manufacturer war, so to speak, where it's going to be strength in numbers to combat the Toyotas?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody watched it at Talladega, so now you're going to have probably elevated levels of it from all three camps. Each camp is probably going to try to replicate what we were able to do with the Chevrolets and have their own twist on it, and it's going to be really interesting. It's tough to do. Really glad it worked out in Talladega, and glad we were able to get one of our cars a win. But yeah, that's just that's kind of the point we're at with speedway racing, and there's big strength in numbers, and you want all those numbers to be on the same agenda.
All right, Alex, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Daytona International Speedway in advance of Saturday night's Coke Zero Sugar 400. We are joined by Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 FedEx Office Toyota, who won the Daytona 500 earlier this year, is looking to celebrate underneath the fireworks to get the season sweep, which would be the first time it had happened since 2013 if he does it. We'll open up to questions. Raise your hand. We'll start here with Greg.
Hey, Denny, Greg, Auto Week. Greg Engel, Auto Week, Cupscene.com. You're coming back here as a winner. Obviously, that's a good thing. But this is the last July 4th race here, and it's been a tradition since at least 1989. Do you think that's an okay move? Do you think it's a motivator to win the last July 4th race here? Or what do you feel like about that going away?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is it's not a race that's going away from the Speedway. Obviously, this racetrack itself definitely is deserving of 2 dates, and we'll have it for a very long time. As far as, moving the schedule around, I don't mind that at all. I think I'm more motivated just to win, like, the second race here. It seems like the July race has always been, pretty tough on us finish-wise, and I think a lot of it is just, you're getting to the point of the season where it, this is going to be some of the last great opportunities for those underfunded teams to go out there and get a win. So they're a lot more aggressive, and the racing itself seems to be more chaotic, and so it's tough to avoid those crashes. And sometimes you're in it, sometimes you're not, but most of the time in the summer we're in it. So we got to find out how we can play it right to win this, because obviously being a Coke family driver, it's important for me to win a race that they sponsor.
We're going to go way far to the left to Jeff, and then Nate and Matt.
Jeff Gluck from The Athletic over here, way over in the corner. Obviously, the uncontrolled tire violation thing keeps coming up, and you tweeted about it. What are some options in your mind that they could do differently to make that a more straightforward or fair rule, and what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they can change, but certainly would like to see a change. I think that rules have to evolve, and this is not about us in particular. I mean, I made a comment, and it's got 3,000 it's got 3,000 likes, it's got 500 retweets, 300 comments. So it touches the fan base. And these are people that aren't Denny fans. They're just like, I just don't get it, And if they don't get it at home, then it's probably not a rule that needs to be in place in the Cup Series, because you can't explain it to them. So it's hard to explain when a tire is just sitting there that it's uncontrolled. It's not moving. It is controlled. So I don't know the answer, and I don't know how to fix it. They're pretty smart, and I'm sure that they can make adjustments to fix it, to make it a little bit more simple. But overall, I mean, everyone's arms is a different length. So, I mean, what is an arm's length? Do they have some kind of technology that says, okay, this distance from the tire changer to the tire is more than an arm's length, and they can pull a measuring out and they can measure that? I don't know, but that's just too much. Too many rules, too many things that can get, change the outcome of a race. And we had earned our spot up front. And I mean, that's the crappy part about it, is we earned our position up there, and then you got to go to the back. And then in today's racing, it's harder than ever to be able to come back. It's virtually impossible to be able to come back now, no matter how fast your car is, because everyone's running so much wide open throttles. So it changes your race. It changes where you're going to finish. It's up to us to play by the rules that are given to us. Let's be clear about that. But we think we're doing that. But sometimes that judgment call doesn't go your way. And it's been multiple times this year that, we don't know what we could do differently. And we're going to need that explanation to make sure we don't do it again.
Go to Nate, Matt, and then Lee.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Denny, did you get any feedback from NASCAR, and do you sense if they would change it before the playoffs, or would they change it for next year?
You're going to have to ask them, but I haven't, but I will. We have a meeting with them later on with, team officials, and I think the team officials have, they've showed me in emails what they have prepared of multiple pit stops just from last week that are identical or more egregious than ours, and nothing gets called. So that's where, is it just because they happen to be looking at you get, judged or whatever it may be? It's hard for me to believe that inside the system it flags you when a tire's not moving. It seems like maybe wherever their eyeballs are on that particular stop is who gets, especially looked at. But we have multiple video evidence of other pit stops from other race teams that are identical. You cannot draw a difference between them, and no penalty. So that's my complaint, is that it is a judgment call. It's not black and white. There is no line. The tire's not on. It's not a line that gets crossed. It is it looks like a little more than arm's length.
So you'd like to see a change this year?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it doesn't affect just us. I mean, there's of the top 10 teams, I'm sure most of them all had these penalties, and all have been like, what? It's not like their tires. I think an uncontrolled tire is a tire that just goes across pit road, and it's out of control like you've seen in years past. But certainly a tire sitting right there inside your pit box, stagnant, I'm not sure. We're going to need more clarification, and we'll get that later.
And finally, you get singled out a lot for penalties. Do you feel like you were saying that, that you don't know how it gets flagged when the tire is just sitting there? Do you think your team gets looked at more often because of the speeding penalties and the other penalties you were?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we were up front. We were up front. We were in the top 5. So, is it because maybe our pit stop was on TV? I'm not sure. We'll get those answers shortly this afternoon.
We're going to go to Matt and then Lee.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. You kind of touched on it earlier about what happened once the penalty happened and the struggles to work your way back through the top 20, top 15. You finished 15th. You started 9th. You were able to win the first stage. You had some restarts to help you out there. But what happens when you get back in the field, some of the struggles that you mentioned on mile and a half? What's the challenge?
It's a challenge to get back in the front, and then we got damaged and ruined the car. But I was racing for 20th, and I got damaged on, not too far after a restart, and that's it. Our day's done because we had a little bit of body damage. So, I mean, it was a cause and effect. I shouldn't have been there in the first place. We should have been up front where we were supposed to start. But like I say, it's no one's really fault. I just think it's a really tight box that we're putting ourselves in as a sport to try to officiate something that's moving or not moving, arm's length, elbows length, hands length, who knows? It's just, sometimes there's just too much.
Go to Lee.
To Lee Spencer, RacingVoice.com, to kind of follow up on what Nate said, do you take it a little more personally since you have had a rash of crap happen to you on pit road?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I don't think they single us out particularly. I think, I've seen many,
I wasn't implying that by the way that they single you out, but.
Well, take it personally, sure. I mean, it definitely, it affects me the most, and I'm the most frustrated because I know I had a race-winning car. Every guy that was up front there in that race, finishing the top 5, we passed many times, just early in the race. So it's like, you hate losing the opportunity to try to go win, and when you get sent to the back, I mean, it's over. It is over. It's not like it used to be where, that fast car can just come back through the pack and you watch that person battle back to the front. I mean, there just ain't enough laps in the day to get back there.
And your buddy Larson said something post-race that just blew me away because I don't think I've heard this in the, 25 years I've been doing this. We've heard that clean air is king. He said out front his car didn't work well. And as good as the racing has been on intermediate tracks this year, I don't think I have ever heard that he didn't have a car that ran well out front. Can you kind of explain if you have ever experienced that? Because it goes against, what we've been programmed to hear from you guys for the last 2 decades.
So, basically, what I take out of that, and it's something that I could understand because we had a little bit of it as well, is when his car was out front, it appeared to be slow. When you're out front, you have all the drag. So his car was actually faster when it was behind somebody, and he was able to get a tow down the straightaway. And Chicagoland, and if you look at all the great races that this package has put on, it has got to have a multiple lane racetrack. You cannot have a 1-lane racetrack and this package work. It just doesn't work. You have to be able to run a different line in the corner to then be able to use the draft on the straightaway. So that's why you saw Pocono was a huge challenge. Indy will be a tremendous challenge for this package, but we have great racetracks for it too. Like I said, I think the 1.5 miles definitely have been better this year. So it's just a matter of, can we move around to get out of that wake in the corners so we can make up the ground in the straightaways. And I think for him, the reason he's saying his car is not good out front is it must have been just too slow by itself. And I think he qualified not very good, which means it probably had more drag and it was slower, so he was struggling to hold off faster cars behind him.
So what do you think we'll see at Kentucky?
Kentucky will be a challenge. Turn 3 in there is kind of a 1-lane racetrack. It has widened out a little bit. They when they kind of redid these tracks like Texas and they redid Kentucky, trying to make them different. Just because they're different doesn't mean it's better necessarily. I don't know how much input they had from drivers, but they try to make one corner a lot different than the next. And yeah, it's trendy, it's cool, but it's to put on the best racing, you've got to have a wide racetrack. And anytime it repaves, you're just not going to have a wide racetrack for really 10 years.
We're going to come up front to Holly and then go in the back to Edgar.
Holly Kane, the NASCAR Wire Service. Denny, what do you like about your chances to possibly sweep here, and why do you think it's been so unusual? I think it's only happened twice in the last 20 years, maybe longer than that even. I'm not looking at my stats, but for someone to win the Daytona 500 and then the second race as well.
Well, the reason it's so hard is because you can't it's not about a fast car. It's not like you can hit on a setup at a racetrack and then sweep over the races. You see that a lot in a season, that whoever wins the first race at, call it Pocono or Martinsville or Richmond, they've won that race because they've hit a setup and their car's fast. So when they go back there, they use those notes and they're going to be fast again. At Daytona, it's not setup driven. It is strategery that you really have to make yourself a great race car driver here. It is just putting yourself in the right position at the right time and avoiding the wrecks. And those two, it's hard enough to win one because of all the variables, much less win 2 in the same season at the same racetrack. It's just, it's so hard to do. The odds are stacked so far against you, and that's why you see it just doesn't happen that often.
Going to wrap up in the back with Edgar.
Yeah, Edgar Thompson, the Orlando Sentinel. Eric Jones said it's a little frustrating being on a team where guys are piling up wins. How close do you feel he is, and what do you like just about his approach and his talent level?
Well, I think he's super talented, and I think that he has gotten a lot better just in the last year. I think that he's shown a lot of speed. They've struggled to get the finishes that their speed shows, but I think that comes with experience. It'll get better. I do notice sometimes that he'll let emotions get the best out of him on the racetrack. Like maybe somebody will get into him, and next thing you know, him and that person's kind of got a pissing match going on. It's like you're watching them bang into the side of each other, and it's just like, yeah, that's not going to work. Somebody's going to have a cut tire here shortly. And so I think that just comes from emotion and pressure and things like that. But there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be successful in this series and sport for a really long time. It's just, we kind of saw it with Joey, right? sometimes it just will click. You'll go through an off season and then you'll come to the next season and you'll just be more informed. You'll be more experienced and things will just start clicking and you'll start being more competitive on a regular basis and learn how to win races over the long haul.
All right, Denny, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.